Well, look, nice to meet everybody. Thank you for joining today. Sanj and I will take this webinar. Sanj, can you hear me okay? See me okay? Yeah. Okay, good stuff. So today we're going to run through the Docman MyBotGP. We have a couple of products that are available for EMIS at the moment. One is our normal pathology management platform, which we can run through separately if you would like to hear about that. And we normally run one webinar on each product per month. And the second is the product that we're going to run through today, which is our Docman automation product under the brand name of MyBotGP. The principle behind this this product is very straightforward. It is not here to make medical decisions on letters. Okay, so let's get that piece out at the beginning. We like to clear that piece at the beginning. There is only one thing at the moment available to general practice that is able to read a letter and make a medical decision based on that letter and action that letter. And by action, we mean actually file and kick off the next step to that. And that person is a human being. And it more than likely will remain a human being for quite some time. There's lots of talk around AI and this and that and the other, but the reality is there is kit that will hazard a guess and then give it to a person to say, have I got it right? Because obviously if you make a mistake, it can be catastrophic. So the principle behind our tooling is very, very clean. And the costing for our tooling is very lean as well in terms of what we provide. We have a very powerful validation automation that will run in the background and ensure that the people that have to do the complex stuff around making medical decisions around letters, getting the correct codes, applying the correct codes, performing calculations are left alone so they can do that, and they're not having to file hundreds and hundreds of thousands of letters a year manually over the weekend and when people are on holiday and double checking mistakes and reconciling. So our kit works 7 days a week. We are an NHS ICT partner. If I explain what that means, we are a private UK business, but we do have a partnership with an ICT. So what that means is our kit lives in NHS Cloud. So DTACs, data sharing agreements, DPIAs are essentially NHS. They're very, very straightforward. So there's no issue with plugging our stuff in. And our Docman automation MyBotGP has a DCBO 129 certification, which is an NHS prerequisite certification around safety. So our tool is here to help you process letters faster, miss nothing, enforce rules, and to be able to process the letters quicker so you can see the ones that you need to see, rather than being inundated with hundreds, thousands of letters a year that you don't need to see. A little bit on time. People aren't very good at perceiving time. 15 minutes a day doesn't feel like much, but actually 15 minutes a day works out for one person is about 91.25 hours of work. That's 2 weeks. 30 minutes is 4 weeks for one person. 60 minutes is 9 weeks for one person. So you can see where we're going with this. Letter management takes a lot longer than 60 minutes a day, and there's a lot more than one person involved. Time adds up. So what's the principle behind our tool and the business case and the deliverable? So for the purpose of this webinar, we base our calculation on a list of 8,500 patients. What we can share is this is a list of 8,500 patients will receive approximately 39,000 letters a year, which is about 125 a day. That 39,000 a year, 125 a day is quite accurate. And what we've seen across our client base and across the NHS through research and all the rest of the stuff that you would expect is that number does move up and down based on list size. So double, 17,000 list would have double the amount, would have 78,000 letters, and a 4,200 list would have about 50% of that. So they would have somewhere in the region of 18,000, 19,000, 19,500 a year. So you can quite easily work out how many letters you're getting. It's very time consuming. Every letter has to be manually validated. Every letter has to, in terms of does the patient exist or not, every letter has to be manually filed. Every single letter has to be decoded and cut and pasted and copied and reconciled into a document template. Thousands of those letters you don't need to see a year. Thousands of them can be just filed, and it's very time consuming and error prone. So that's the scenario. What we will do in our webinars is we like to keep them very interactive. So we will pause in sort of 10 minutes or so, 10, 15 minutes or so. So if you want to put questions into the chat, then we'll circle back and we'll answer the questions, and then we can carry on with the webinar again. So just to put that in. So the scenario is you have a list of 8,500 patients. It's getting about 39,000 letters a year, which is 125 days, 125 letters a day. And every year practices are getting more and more letters. All of those letters have to be manually entered into the system. So even if you're using something like IntelliSense, you would have to double check that IntelliSense has got it right. You've got the letter open, you've got the template open, and you've got one hand on each document, and you're cutting and pasting and validating. It's a massive amount of work. Our tooling essentially will do all of that for you. It works 7 days a week. Based on this 8,500 list scenario, it's approximately 203 days of time given back in terms of capacity release. And obviously you got quality and consistency. It eliminates backlogs, removes human error, and you can enforce practice protocols. So it works over the weekend, bank holidays, 7 days a week. So in principle, you'll always be up to date, and you will need fewer people to support this task. Now, different practices are set up in different ways. Some have coding teams who code the letters themselves. Others don't. Others triage to clinicians. Others do a bit of both. And that's fine, because the way MyBotGP is set up is it will recognize all of your letters, and then depending on what you want to do with those letters, which changes from practice to practice, it can be told to do that. So if you have certain letters that you want to go to certain people, or use your GP, and again we'll cover more of this in a moment, use your GP, or through a task, or through a template, or pharmacy team, or filed and not looked at, or filed and looked at, all of that can be done because that's essentially document functionality. So MyBotGP is a document super user. It will do all of that for you in the background. You don't need to panic and start rebuilding your workflows. So MyBotGP is the automated document super user actions. It's very flexible. All practices have different letter management flows, action through document, and MyBotGP can flex essentially to support your rules, leveraging all of the document functionality to process work exactly as you would, just faster and 24/7. So what does that mean? It means if you've set up tasks or templates, you can still use them. You don't have to panic. They're not going to disappear if you want to. So it will ingest, it will collect all of your letters and emails directly from Docman. So exactly as it's described, all correspondence that comes into Docman, it will work from there and pick it up. You can email letters to Docman as well. It will also pick up those letters. It's going to recognize the letters. So what do we mean by recognize the letters? By recognize the letters, what we mean is it will know what date to look for, where on the page, what hospital name to look for, because obviously all letters are formatted in a different way. So you may say for this particular letter type, you need to take the date that's in the middle of the page, not on the top of the page, or the top right of the page, or the top left of the page, because some letters have multiple dates in all different places. So it has the ability to recognize your letter that's locked down to the department, what the letter's about, the date, validate the patient. So the next stage is it will validate the patient. It will then complete the document template for you. So what does that mean? It means if you imagine having someone working from home or a ghost using Docman, you'll see the Docman template being completed. It's going to pick that letter up. It's going to say, yep, I recognize that letter. This is the key information I need to take from that letter to complete the Docman template. And it will do that by itself, and it will complete the Docman template. As I touched on before, if you then want to action it through a task or a template, some of our clients have got specific folders or all different combinations of approaches. MyBotGP will do that for you. It's going to file all of your letters as well, so you don't need to do that manually anymore. So you will never need to grab the letters anymore, or validate the patients, or complete the Docman template, or file them. It's going to file every letter for you, and then within that filing protocol, what we've got here as number 4, it also defines what you want to do with that letter. Does anyone need to see it? For example, there are thousands of letters that you receive a year that you just don't need to see. Well, if you don't need to see them, then MyBotGP won't show them. It will still pick them up, it will still validate them, it will still complete the Docman template, it will still file them. You just won't see them unless you want to. Obviously, there's an audit log where it will show what it's done that day. Other letters you want to put through template, tasks, folders, as I touched on before, it will do that for you. And it will enforce your rules consistently every time. And obviously there's a full audit log for accountability and safety. So, mistakes are minimized in terms of if you want certain actions, or I don't know, perhaps you want a letter hidden, it will always be hidden. If you want a particular letter always put through a template, it's always going to get put through a template. But in addition to MyBotGP grabbing these for this 8,500 list, this 39,000 letters a year, validating all of the patients, completing the Docman template, and filing and removing all the ones you don't need to see, leaving you with the ones that you do need to see, which is what we started this webinar around what do the people do. What the people do at the moment is the final piece, obviously, for the remaining letters. Yes, MyBotGP will code the letter type name, but the clinical side, it's not going to hazard a guess. It's going to provide you that letter, and then you will do the human bit on that letter. So you define the rules. MyBotGP will execute them for you. Think of it as a massive, robust workhorse in the background that's just going to ensure that everything is validated, got onto the system for you. Everything you don't need to see is removed, and the stuff you do need to see is made available for you to see. So it uses Docman for you. It can use all of the Docman functionality. It's a Docman super user. So if you just think about how you triage and action your letters at the moment through Docman, and if in the back of your head you're thinking, I wonder if it can do that, the answer is yes. Anything that you can do with Docman, it does with Docman. Some of our clients like to keep things simple, and they just want the tooling to grab everything, validate everything, file everything, remove all of the letters they don't need to see, and put all the remaining ones into a folder. And then they have coding teams out working out the folders. Other clients like to make things more complicated, and then they set tasks, templates, and more. You can triage to usual GP. Nothing is missed. You can still set tasks and track. Again, as we were touching on before, no need to see some letter types. Pharmacy letters, if you don't want to see those, you just want them triaged elsewhere and filed against the patient record, and obviously validated against the patient and the Docman template completed beforehand. It will do that for you. 111s, DNAs, negative retinopathies, there's thousands and thousands of those you don't actually need to see, and other letter types as well. Well, it will file them, so you don't need to see them anymore. In addition to that, MyBotGP can check for keywords for safety. So if it spotted a warning on a 111 or DNA letter, it will then know to send that to a different place. So the example that we're giving is that you could say, we don't need to see 111 letters. They can all be just get them onto the system, validate the patient, complete the Docman template, and file them. Don't need to see them. So it will do that unless you see a warning on there. If you see a warning on there, then we want you to put it in this folder or push it through that template, because that will then kick into a practice protocol that you have, an established practice protocol that you have at the moment. So the point is, why look at thousands, and why spend time validating letters? Why spend time clicking buttons and filing? And essentially look at what you need to look at. There's super comprehensive audit log. everything that the tool touches, there's a footprint of. We'll email you a spreadsheet every day saying what it's done. There's even more complex breakdown actually inside MyBotGP as well. You can log in at any time. We will help with the training of the tool. We configure all of the letters for you. And then once all the letters are configured, we'll ask you what you want done with them. Essentially, you tell us, well, this letter we like here, this letter we want done put through there, this letter we do this with, this letter we don't need to see. We will do that, and all of that will be signed off. And then when letters change, or if letters change that we haven't seen before, they'll pop up in the dashboard. And then by then, either you can add them or you come back to us and we'll add them. So it feels like a good place for a pause. I feel like we've covered lots of ground quite quickly. So it's going to stop for a moment. Are there any questions? We'll just wait a second. If you have any questions, please pop them into the chat. Sanj, do you want to read the question out?
Yeah. First question come in. How many GP surgeries are using this? Are all types of surgeries represented? How much does it cost? How long does it take to set up? If we decide to go ahead, how long does it take to have it implemented and staff training done?
Okay, lots of questions in one go. Yeah. Okay, so do you want to go on mute? Oh no, mute.
Yeah.
So we got so our products are now being used by several hundred plus practices across the UK. We're growing very quickly, and that's a mixture of Docman and pathology. If you installed this product, if you acquired this product, we can have this up and running for you probably 4 to 6 weeks once we've configured all of your letters for you and got it all running and agreed the where you want them to send. There's two stages to this tool. First stage is in the background we will teach it to recognize all of the letters. Then we will come back to you and you tell us where you want the letters to go. So what was the other question, Sanj?
Yeah, so I think you've answered it, and staff training is done.
Okay. So staff training, we will train the letters for you. When we first launched this tool, you had the option to train it yourself or us train it. What we saw is, with the best will in the world, everyone, the clients that acquired this self-train were so busy, they didn't have the time to do that. So we now will train it for you, and it's a prerequisite. We'll train the tool for you. All you need to do is to tell us what to do with it. We also run training webinars every Friday for our client base, for people that want to essentially train letters themselves, to supplement them, like if a letter has changed or there's a new letter, rather than coming to us to add it, they learn how to do it themselves. And because it's only 1 or 2 letters periodically, it doesn't take much time, and they're happy to do that. Costings we'll come to in a second. Essentially, we charge based on your list size. There's a percentage based on your list size. Before we move to the next stage, which I think might even be costings, any other questions come into the chat?
Yeah. So for clarification, does it work with Docman as a separate package, or is it all inclusive?
Got you. Okay. So this is separate. This is not. This is a user of Docman. So to be able for this tool to work, you need to be using Docman. And then think of this as a person. Essentially, it will interact with Docman in exactly the same way as a person does. So you're telling this person, here's 200 different letter types that we get, or 100 different letter types, or some of our clients have got 300 or 400 different letter types. This is, remember all of them, and this is what we want done with each one. And then it will log into Docman and sit in the background and use it and complete the template just like a person. So actually, in reality, nothing changes in your systems. Everything still gets filed in EMIS. You've still got your same reports and reconciliations and stuff that you have at the moment. Any other questions?
Yeah. So what happens if the patient can't be found? I can take this. So if a patient cannot be found, what it does, it puts that letter into an exceptions folder. So what MyBotGP does, it looks to empty out your not in folder, and then based on, as James mentioned, we will train it on all your letter types, and then the ones that it doesn't recognize, or if there is a not registered patient or inactive patient, essentially those letters are then pushed into an exceptions folder. We simply just create a new folder in your Docman, and you can clear them out manually. Okay, so next question is there a trial period we can test the system before we connect?
So minimum contract is 12 months. So that's the minimum contract. The reason for that is we have to configure the letters, and obviously we have to acquire the space and stuff. But we do have references we can share now. This is not a new tool anymore, so there are references just to confirm it does as is on the tin.
Okay.
Any question?
Next question. Can it send letters to different doctors on different days? Does it need a prompt for that every day? So,
I mean, triage to usual GP or
yeah, so there's a couple of things. There's two functions that you can do in the system. One is, like as James said, you can by letter type push letters to the usual GP. So again, it will look and it will know who the usual GP is and post that letter, create a task for that GP. And there's also an out of office functionality where if a doctor is again on vacation, you can then signpost those letters to an alternative clinician or member of staff.
Thanks, Ange. Does that answer the question?
So, to come back, the last question here is: does it work for System 1 or just EMIS?
Just EMIS and Docman at the moment. We are looking at a System 1 alternative. The algorithm works already. It's a question of the final piece, and we're hoping to have that ready near the end of the year. Well, middle to end of the year.
Okay, that's all.
Any other questions? Yeah. If anyone has anything else, please pop it in the chat. You're all experts in what you do, so we find the way that you learn is to understand where any tooling that you use starts and stops, because you've got to sort of position that in your brain so you know what it does. So please put questions in the chat. I've got no issue with them. So that's the reporting. Sanj mentioned the not in folder for letters it hasn't seen before, or exception letters where it can't find a patient, for example. So the way that your role will be is someone from that team will still obviously be monitoring the tooling. The letters will be being filed, and there will be some monitoring that will be done as well. But it's a lot less time you're doing at the moment. The way that we charge, this looks really complicated, but it isn't. This 8,500 list scenario works out 5,137 plus VAT for unlimited letters and unlimited letter types. So it's an annual subscription for unlimited letters. But the way it works, if you break it down for your individual practice, and we can share costs individually after the call as well, is there's a 1999 and then list times 30 pence. And then depending on how many patients you have, it's either 7, 6 or 5 pence times the list size. So what we're saying here for this 8,500 list is it's 1999 and then 8,500 times 30 pence, which you can see on the right over here, is 2550. And then NHS Cloud would be 8,500 times 7 pence, which is 595. And again, if you are hoping to take a second product, a pathology management platform, then there's sort of a multi-product discount if you acquire both products for EMIS. So do we have any other questions? No? Okay, so what I'm going to do then in this scenario is I'm just going to run through this again super quick for the next 5 or 10 minutes, just to make sure we've covered everything. If anyone has any questions, please jump. Yep. Sanj says there's a question that's come in. You're muted.
Sorry. Do you have any data regarding how many letters can be purely dealt with? Can be purely dealt with by this product for the average GP surgery?
So define it. Okay, so that's an interesting question, and it really depends on what you mean by purely dealt with. So in principle, 100% of the letters will be dealt with because it's going to try to validate the patient on 100% of the letters. So that piece is done. Now, from the letters it can validate, other than letters it can't, with the question that we had before where it went to the exception folder where it can't find a patient, for the remaining letters it's going to complete the Docman template, and it will do that for all of them. So let's say that's 90% or 95%. You'll know at your practice roughly what percentage of letters that you get in each day where you can't validate the patient. So it's going to get them onto the Docman into the Docman template, and it's going to then the decision is next. Do you need to see that letter or don't you need to see that letter? So if you're asking in that question, what percentage of letters don't you need to see, i.e. they can just be filed and removed, there's that percentage. But then there's obviously the percentage as well that still are filed against the patient record, but then need to be triaged to the appropriate person or team, to clinically code. So it's a roundabout way of saying that it will attempt to look after 100% of your letters. If it can't validate a letter, it's going to leave that for a team member. We've seen the percentage changes across our client base of percentage of letters that can't be validated. You probably have some more detailed figures around that.
Is that to me? Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, just a quick one. Just to add on that, I think there's largely three buckets when it does the letter filing. It will file all letters, but obviously there is a section of letters that it won't file because it can't file them because there's no NHS number for it to record against. So largely three buckets. One is where it files straight through and doesn't create a task. Secondary are where you file it to the team, or the coding team, who will then triage and then code that letter from that point on. And thirdly, if you want letters to go to a usual GP. Those are largely the three buckets that we see and how the tooling is used. And you've got to make that upfront decision as to where and which bucket these letter types sit in. As I say, do you want them to go straight through? No one needs to see it. Do you need to code it, or does it need to go to a GP? And effectively, that will represent all of your documents and all your letter types that are coming into your not in folder.
Thank you, Sanj. Any other questions?
Yeah, I presume our staff have to scan them still to Docman. That's correct. Yes, it will pick up all scans, NHS mails that come into your not in folder. The tooling will literally, as a user, log into your not in folder, start at the top, and work its way down, looking and identifying and validating each letter type. There's another question here. You mentioned the human aspect of coding needed. How do we know which letters will need coding? I think, just to say on that, you will make an upfront decision as to which letter types will need coding, and then decide or tell MyBotGP to push those letters to a specific coding team, and then you'll pick them up from there. But you make that upfront decision looking at all your letter types.
What we've seen in that is erring on the side of caution at the beginning. So you start off by saying, we definitely don't need to see these, and they're dealt with straight away. And the ones you think we might need to see or we might not need to see, you start off by saying we don't need to see those, but we do see all of these. And then you can adjust it as you build confidence with the tool and say, okay, actually these ones we don't need to see. And then you can scale it up over a period of weeks until it gets to a point where you've safely removed all the ones you don't want to see, and you're left with the ones that you do want to see, but obviously erring on the side of caution. But obviously in principle, what MyBotGP's done is still picked them up, validated the patient exists, validated the letter, completed the Docman template, and it's still filed it as well. So they've all been filed. So at least that is done in the background.
Yeah, I mean, just to add on that, the way you would be onboarded would be that we would run the tooling for a few weeks, as James mentioned. We normally then send you a spreadsheet, which lists every single letter type. And then on that sheet, it says, where that letter is going to go in terms of the folder, the department, the organization, how it's going to treat event date, is it current date, appointment date, clinical date, whatever date has been extracted from that letter. And then, as I say, then you have to state with regards to the task, do you want it to go to a coding team? Do you want it to go straight through? Or do you want it to go to a usual GP? And that's it. And essentially it lists out every single letter type on that sheet. You'll review that, sign that off, and then you go live, basically.
Thank you, Sanj. Let me just let's pull up the demo quickly. Okay, do you want to pull the question while I get the demo? Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple more. So, how fast is the system? How many letters can be filed per hour, for example?
I'll let you answer that.
I can take that. Yeah. So again, in a typical day, it can deal with anywhere between sort of 300 to 400 letters a day. And again, that sort of suits most practices in terms of what it's filing.
Just touching on that, if what we've seen more recently, where we've started working with some really big practices, where they need additional capacity to run the bot more, yeah, we can do that as well. We just need to know that in advance, and it's generally based on the list size. Sorry, Sanj, go on.
Yeah, no, 100%. Typically, the kind of one size fits all, the tooling will sort of file anywhere between 300 to 400 to 500 letters, and that typically is more than ample. But as I say, bigger list sizes, we can look at that and sort of increase scheduling to take care of that as well. So it's not a problem.
Any other questions?
Can we set up certain letter types not to be filed, but moved into another filing folder instead? So what you can do with that, you can set an exceptions. So in answer to your question, yes, you can ask MyBotGP not to look at certain letter types, but what it will do, it will skip them and leave them within the not in folder. But it can't push them to a separate folder. It will leave them in the not in folder for you.
Any other questions?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, good. Some good questions. Please keep popping them in the chat as you think of them. Can you see my screen? Is that sharing properly with the demo? Yeah, okay. So here's just a short video. You won't see this necessarily in the background unless you want to train the letters yourself as well, which some clients want to, some practices do, some don't. Again, we get the bulk of them, we get them onto the system for you. It's just for sort of general upkeep and when letters change and stuff. And this is just when you actually see the tool working, it's not, you're just going to see Docman working in the background. There's no sort of flashy colors or lights or anything. You're looking at Docman, but essentially you're looking at a real letter here, which is why it's been redacted. The client's happy for us to share this, and it's just part of the training on mechanisms here. And there's 5 steps that we follow in training the document. And the first step is to enter the document type, the document type, keyword to search for in document title rather, and keyword to search for in the document. So again, this is more for internal purposes and the language that we use that we use in order to train the tooling. And I'm not going to spend too much time on this. I just let it whiz through. You'll see internally we're here looking at the letters and saying, right, okay, this is obviously an ENT letter. We know it's an ENT letter because that's the one in the title. Document type, keyword to search for is ENT. Next stage is, which date do we want to go for? Obviously, we know it's the date at the top, the at the bottom, or NHS number. Obviously, it's validations against the NHS number. Which date formats? So it's actually pretty straightforward to configure. We'll run through this in the background. Again, we've seen some clients have like 100, 120 different letter types, and then we've seen some similar sizes have double. We've even got one client that's got, I think, somewhere in the region of 600, 650 different letter types. So presumably that depends on how many hospitals you're linked to. So it's not a huge amount of work, but it does take a little bit of time, and we do this in the background. Once all this is completed, obviously, as Sanj said, we'll share with you a spreadsheet. This is actually part of that process, whereby you confirm what you want done with each letter based on how you want those letters managed at the practice. And I'll run for another couple of seconds. And then the final bit, obviously you'll see it complete the template by itself. And I'll just jump to the next stage here. And I'll open up the next video, which is here. What you'll see here, again, it's MyBotGP's fired up in the background. If you ignore this, you wouldn't obviously have any of that. It's logged into Docman. It's found that letter. It's saying, am I allowed to action it in its brain? Yeah, I've been given permission to action that letter. Yeah, I can safely validate that. I can validate all of the details on there. Oh, haven't yet. What's going to happen now? And the next stage is it will action it. Once it's got through the first one and it's fired up, you'll see it's completing on the right. It's all been redacted. The tool does it by itself in the background. I think of it as a remote worker, someone logging in from home doing this task for you, and it's going to whiz through the letters one by one and get them onto the system for you. Right, Sanjay saying there's a question coming. We'll just give that a second and then we'll stop this and go back to the question. So for those of you that were expecting to see flashy robots and colors and stuff, no, it's simply code. MyBotGP is a remote worker is the best way to think about it. If it's managing your letters, it's someone doing it from home, following a strict set of rules, logged in as a user. If it's managing your pathology tests, it's doing the same thing. It's logging into your pathology test, one by one, looking at the ones it's been given permission to action and actioning them and skipping the ones that it hasn't been given permission to action. So Sanj, there's another question.
Yeah. So do we have to set up each letter type individually? We get hundreds of different types of letters. How long on average does it take to set up? So I can take this. So we do everything. So not to worry. We know there are lots of nuances with respect to a letter can go one of 10, 15 different ways just based on pure content and diagnosis on that letter. So, but we tease out all of that onto a sheet, on a spreadsheet. We list out all the letter types. We send that to you. And then you review that, and essentially what you're reviewing is are we determining the correct event date? Are we determining how you want to sort of file that letter in terms of tasks? Do you want it to go straight through use your GP or to the coding team? What tasks do you want it to be created? And then that's it. You send that spreadsheet back to us, and then we enable all the letters, and we can pretty much do this within a few days, as I say. But it does need to run for a few weeks, so it can have a good look at all of your letter types, so we can get that data onto a spreadsheet. And as I say, once it's returned back to us, we can pretty much turn it around within sort of 3 to 5 days. So that's pretty much how it works.
Any other questions?
Just one more question. Is it coding? Example, BP reading into EMIS and echocardiogram done, or it doesn't do the coding. As James mentioned, there is a clinical code field right at the end of Docman, which is, for example, seen in clinic, things like that. But in terms of diagnosis and coding, no, it doesn't do that. It does everything other than that. It gets it onto the system, out of your not-in folder, against the patient record, into the right folders, departments, correct organizations. And then, as I say, it's then primed for you then to either code it or for it to go, or it will go straight through and or to the doctor.
So thank you. So any other questions, please pop them in the chat and I'll just run through this again super quickly. So this is the business case essentially. 8,500 list will get 39,000 letters a year approximately. If you're half that size, you're getting half that amount, but then you'll also have half the support services to manage those 39,000. If you're double that size, you'll be getting roughly double that amount and you have double the staff. Time consuming, error prone, super important, thousands and thousands of letters in advance you don't need to see. And the bit that everyone seems to forget, unless it's part of their job, is someone's actually got to validate every single one of those and get every single one onto the system, and every single one has to be completed through the Docman template, and every single one has to be filed before the ones that need to be clinically coded or triaged to the usual GP or whatever you want done with them done. In addition to there being thousands and thousands of letters a year that you receive that quite frankly you don't need to see, they're just copy letters, and you still have to see them and you still have to validate them and you still got to file them. It will grab all of those letters for you. It will validate all of the letters. It will complete the template. It will file them all against the patient record, and then it will triage the appropriate letters to whoever needs to see them. So in answer to the question just before around can it add that medical code for that particular letter that needs that code, it will be sent to the person that can do it. But that person that's doing it is no longer doing the rest of the work. And seeing a lot less letters if that's being done by a coding team. Full audit log works 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Letters can be filed without being looked at. There's an additional safety on there to check for keywords for letters that you haven't seen, that you don't need to see, to make sure that you do need to, that you can see them. And it's basically a Docman super user. So anything you're doing with Docman at the moment, or you would like to do with Docman and your protocols, it can replicate. So tasks, templates, folders, triage to usual GP, hide letters, not hide letters. Really comprehensive audit log. Goes without saying, you have to have that. Everything it touches is tracked. And the pricing is an annual subscription of unlimited letters. We don't charge for how many letters, and we don't charge based on volumes. It's an open-ended subscription. This 8,500 list comes in at around 5,137 plus VAT. But in principle, the calculation to break down what it will cost for you, and obviously we can share those prices afterwards, is 1,999, and then your list times 30 pence. And in addition to that, for NHS Cloud, that's either 7, 6 or 5 pence times your list based on how many letters you have. And for those of you that either already have our pathology management platform or are interested in acquiring both at the same time, then there is a multi-product discount available. The PATH product essentially is around supporting clinicians in freeing capacity and adding additional safety on all of your pathology tests, making sure that nothing slips through the net. Our PATH tools looking after 200 plus pathology tests at the moment for practices across the country, and we'll run an initial sweep and check on all pathology tests as they come into the practice to make sure nothing slips through the net, and we can share detail on that as well. So if there are any more questions, please pop them in. If there aren't, it feels like we're getting to a natural conclusion. The final, no, sorry, there is, or
yeah, one question.
Okay, yeah.
Is there any plan for this product to be able to code? This seems like a huge potential benefit.
Yeah, I'll answer that one. Yeah, 100%. But as soon as so the coding is an interesting thing. So there's lots of stuff out there that can hazard a guess, and MyBotGP, if we wanted it to, could hazard a guess. But there's a difference between hazarding a guess and pressing enter. So pressing enter, and what we mean by pressing enter is committing to that decision and no human intervention required. So that's what we mean. So when there is AI that is capable and trustworthy because it's safe enough and been tested enough to pick up a letter, read it, make a decision just like a human being does, and action that decision, i.e. press enter and file it, and nobody needs to check it, we will plug it in, is the short answer. But I can tell you now, categorically, unless you're working for someone like NASA, potentially, there is no AI capable of doing that yet. There is AI capable of hazarding a guess, as we touched on earlier. And hazarding a guess means I've summarized this for you, and I think this is this code. Am I right? And then that goes to a person who then reads it, double checks, and puts their reputation is the wrong word, but themself on the line to press enter. Yes, you've got it right. And that's where the line is. So if you want something that will hazard a guess for you, there is kit out there. It's going to cost you 7 to 8 times the amount of this product. And we don't really believe that's actually going to save, it's not worth it. For the cost, because everything still goes through a person. So our tooling has a very clean start and stop. This is what it does, and this is where it stops. And 100% yes, as soon as there is something which is able to run by itself without being checked or monitored, and can just make all these decisions by itself and pick up and triage and flow and perform calculations and add codes and press enter and all of that stuff, we will plug it in. So a very long way of saying yes. But so there's a lot of misunderstanding in primary care at the moment about what kit can and can't do. Fortunately for everyone, the only thing that can do that at the moment is a person. AI hasn't replaced that function yet. I'm sure it's coming, but it's not here yet. But for what we do is we make sure that that person that can make those decisions and has lots of other work to do is not sitting there like a robot cutting and pasting letters into a Docman template and clicking file 40,000 times a year. And that's the principle behind this tool. How can we free up the most valuable resource in our practices, which is our people, and let them do work that adds more value rather than sit there just scanning letters and double clicking on bits. So any other questions?
Yeah, one more. Do you audit documents that have been filed to check for accuracy, or we need to do that ourselves?
I'll let you answer that one, Sanj.
Yeah, there's a full audit, a complete footprint as to every letter that the system has touched and filed. There's also a daily report that is sent to you at 5 p.m., which basically gives you a sort of daily metric as to every letter type and with regards to every field, Docman field that it's actually filed against. So that's sent every day. But yeah, fully comprehensive audit, check and report within the systems.
Yeah, and there is still a practice responsibility, of course, under your DCB 160, as there is with all your kit, to run your reconciles, your checks as well as you see fit. So it's a bit of both, and I guess what Sanjay's saying is we give you all the information that you need to be able to do that. But yeah, that is actually, that will always remain, on you as well. Any other questions?
So do you supply a DSA and DPI templates for users? 100% yes. We've got a templated DPIA and DSA agreements, and we provide them with our pack when you're onboarded.
Yeah, and our stuff is really clean now. Obviously, everything, all of our kit lives in NHS Cloud, so it's a very clean pack. And that actually leads me on to something else. We've also got a templated DCB 160 as well, for those of you that are aware of what that is. And the reason it's templated is you may want to bespoke it. So that's essentially around making sure you understand how you're using this tool in your practice. And and in principle, what a lot of people aren't aware of is you should have one for everything that you use. It's not only our tool. There's always a DCB 160. Okay, any other questions? Okay, great. Okay, I think we've used up the time. If there's no other questions, let's just say thank you for everyone for joining. Thank you for the questions; they were really good. Really interesting webinar today. Thank you, Sanj, for helping out. If you have any questions, please let us know. What we're going to do now is we will get the recording onto our website. Take us a day or so to do that, and then we'll email everyone a copy of the link. And then obviously you've got our contact details anyway for anyone that wants more information or to buy the tooling. Please let us know. So thanks again, and I'm going to stop the recording now, and we will close off this